February 6, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart on the NinjaTrader 8 platform. This is how I saw the charts today. I took one trade and there was no economic data that came out to really move the markets. For the most part, it looked like prices were pretty much range bound in about a 30-point range. Um, Today wasn't the easiest day for me. I guess the best I could describe is I saw a lot of inside signal bars or signal bars that were the wrong color of the direction that I needed. And often the signal bars, they just had a really long tail in the direction you want to trade. So they kind of close, closer to the center or closer to the middle instead of higher up or higher lower down. And then price action itself created these really, really, I guess, not very clean ranges. So it was really hard to trust if the prices were touching the highs or really touching the lows because they kind of didn't really respect it too well. It kind of like pushed through or it did kind of meet it. So it was challenging for me today to find reliable, I guess, channels. I mean, there were channels everywhere, especially if you went to the short and trend channels, but reliable trading ranges. So as a result, I didn't find too many setups that I liked. So I'm going to get into the charts right now. As you can see here, it looks kind of ugly. I mean, there are a lot of second entries that were almost there, but they just didn't look right. And so I couldn't take them, or I just didn't feel comfortable taking them. So this is the pre-market highs and the pre-market lows, which are marked up. And then you can see these intermediate resistance and support lines that I tried to see if, prices were respecting, but it was really choppy overall. So the pre-market, it clearly looks like it's going to be in a range, right? So it opened, it made one leg up, one leg down, and in between there was these smaller legs and another leg up. So I wasn't around to trade the pre-market, and the prices opened, so it starts moving up, right? So I'm wondering if this pre-market high range is going to pull prices back through. So it looks like it is because you have this big spike down. So I'm just sitting here, I'm wondering, okay, this is early in the day, made a first entry long, pull back, it creates a second entry short right here. So you only have a first entry long, but you have a first entry short, second entry short. I didn't want to take this setup, even though it's a decent signal bar, is because even though you have a spike in this channel, you had one pullback, one push up. So yes, you could make another leg down, or you could be making another leg up to test the highs, but it's coming from an overshoot. So it just was a little confusing. I didn't quite trust it. But if you look at it, it looked like it would have worked for maybe a quick scalp. And it comes down, and this is what I kind of saw the first setup, and I'll tell you why I didn't really particularly like it. So you have a new high here. You have a first entry long, pullback. You have your second entry long. You also have this new low. You have a first entry short, second entry short. Here, the second entry short fails, and you have a confirmed second entry long. But it's unclear to me at this point if prices are going to respect this pre-market high, because if this is a failed breakout, then prices you would think would come all the way back down to here. But it made one attempt up and it did push through. And so now it's making a second attempt up. So if I were to go long, that'd be great, except each subsequent peak or swing was lower than the rest, and then each subsequent swing on the low side were higher. So you're creating higher lows every time and lower highs. So it's kind of getting wedged. So I don't know if the next candle is going to flash up, continue breakthrough, or is it going to make the second leg down? First leg down, pull back, second leg down. It's going to continue. And how much respect is going to be paid to this pre-market high? That I didn't know. So I was just waiting, and I said I should probably wait for a higher low, like a higher low down here to trust that it's going to go up. And you kind of get one right here, and it pushes through. But I wasn't sure now because now I'm pushing against the highs. So it looks like a W formation. And it looks like if you did take it, you would have gotten in, and then here you wouldn't have gotten stopped out yet. Then it looks like market would have faked you out, potentially stopped you out right here. So knowing that, it was just kind of felt a little sketchy, and that was already on my guard now because I saw something like, okay, that looked kind of weird. So it looks like what might be happening is it might be in this range, but I wasn't too keen on this range. It looks a little not clean. Prices move up, kind of chops around, creates one leg down, pullback, and it creates a second leg down. So I see a new high here, see a first entry long, pullback, second entry long. I marked the second entry long as two legs clearly down. Prices just came from an overshoot and a potential failed breakout. But I also don't like that, it didn't quite make a triple test down here because it made a double test. You could have drawn it up higher and maybe considered maybe one touch here, two touch here, three touch here, but just wasn't clean. And this is kind of what the rest of the day is going to create, a bunch of these trading ranges that weren't very clean. So it's really hard for me to, you know, understand fully the context and what might be happening. So when I saw this, I said, I better wait for a higher low confirmation. Prices move up and you don't get your higher low. And then by here, the trade setup isn't even good anymore. So you just abandon it. Did draw this trend line coming down and this trend line, so I'm thinking there might be a big channel coming down. It was a loose one, but I didn't really trust it for any trade yet because I need more confirmation, more price action to unfold. It starts moving down. You have a new high here, first entry long. Technically, you have a second entry long here, and it's a first break. So you have a first break, it made a new low, and now it's pushing back up potentially. What I didn't like was this signal bar isn't very good. And then when this one pushes up, it felt like I'd be chasing, so I had to leave the trade alone. And I didn't want to put my entry down here, just to hope the prices would come all the way down here, pick me up, and then come reverse that big move all the way back up. Prices then continue. So I do see a new low here. Let's see. Second entry short. I think I counted it from here. Let's see. Huh. I usually don't count it like that. I think this might have been a little bit cleaner in real time, but I saw a new low. First entry short, pullback, second entry short. Second entry short, oh, I know why. This is actually a new low. So this count resets. It's a first entry short here, second entry short here. But here, I needed this candle to come up, touch the EMA and have a rejection. It would have also been perfect if it touched this potential resistance and come back down. But since it made a double top, came down, it didn't break through the previous bar. So that made me hesitant. Then when it flashed down, it has a second entry short here. And I consider this kind of like an almost setup because the entry would have been, let's say, one tick matching the lows here or one tick below. But I didn't really like that this signal bar was an inside bar. I needed, ideally, this one, as I said, to come up, touch this or touch the EMA. But I needed to tick above this guy to show there was an attempt to trap people and then flash back down. So unfortunately, this setup looked like it would have worked, but I didn't take it. Prices then continue moving. It goes up, and I see this potentially as a trading range. Later, I expanded it. So I saw it as a failed breakout, but it's also moving up the green channel. So now I'm wondering, is price is going to pull back into the range or is it going to go test this green channel up? Keeping in mind that the previous bias was going down. So it's a little confusing to know if this is going to push up or go down. Moves around. I see this as a new low. It's a first entry short, pullback. Here, it creates a second entry short. So when this candle broke below this big bearish one, I'm going to admit that this was an aggressive trade because this signal bar is an inside bar, but it's coming from a failed breakout. So I'm thinking it's one attempt up, it failed. So this could be considered a lower high of this failed breakout push up. One push down, push up, and then this could be the second push down. So I decided to enter. Now, I think it was riskier for sure, but I like the fact that the signal bar closed really strong. Unfortunately, it was inside this previous signal bar or previous bar. But it turns out to work, so I'm thinking there was partially luck because this was probably more of a mediocre or medium probability trade, not a high probability. So that was my one trade for the day. It comes down and it creates another fail breakout. At this point, it's a fail breakout of this blue range, but I was thinking, is there possibly a lower trading range? So I dragged this down previously, and I was kind of testing it here, here, and here. This purple one kind of shows up later. And I saw this as a new low. It's creating a higher low. It's a decent signal bar, but there's no real trade I feel comfortable with or no real setup other than you're going to believe that it's going to test the highs of this green channel, which is very, very, I guess, very, very small at this point. So it's hard to fully trust this green channel. And as you can see, it kind of just oscillates sideways. It would have made me super uncomfortable to sit through this trade. Prices go up. It breaks out again. It creates this yellow channel going up. And technically, you have a new low here. It's first entry short, second entry short. You could argue this second entry short is a good signal bar. I didn't have this blue line established yet because I just didn't have it around yet. But it felt like you're still in this yellow up channel to suddenly decide that you want to go short because you also had this kind of doji-ish looking candle and it continued upwards. So to go short here felt risky. It does create a second entry short, and you do have a higher low, lower high here. So it's a new low. First entry short pulls up. Second entry short creates a lower high, and it has a really strong push down. Now, I was tempted to take this trade, but I just didn't. I didn't really like kind of the price action that was happening, so I was just kind of sitting by. I wanted to see kind of like a failed second entry long to feel more comfortable. So technically, you have a first entry long, you have a second entry long now. This is a really strong push up though, so definitely you wouldn't have thought of taking a long. And here is pushing down, and you don't get your failure. Now the whole trade setup is kind of passing me by because clearly it's not going to create a failed second entry long anymore because it already created second entry long, pushed way up. So I'm not even thinking of going short, but I'm not ready to go long yet either. And at this point, I was toying with the idea that potentially there's a bigger range, and this could be the resistance up here. Prices then continue chopping, creates a new low, first entry short. Technically have a second entry short here, but I didn't like, as I mentioned earlier, there were a lot of signal bars that were just had these long tails in the direction that you needed it to go, or it was the wrong color. In this case, it was the long tail at the bottom side. It looked like it just barely closed right at the EMA. You could argue it's slightly below, but it doesn't make me feel very comfortable. And of course, then it flashes down, you missed the trade. Then it immediately reverses up, so it's like hard to trust stuff like this. And then I'm feeling more confident that this resistance is something somewhat being respected here. And I was wondering if there was some kind of support here. I actually had it lower at one time, closer to this. So it flashes up, pops around. You do have a new low here. It's a first entry short, pull back, second entry short. This could have been a trade because it could be a failed breakout, and it could be moving back into this range. But this range has kind of a bullish bias. It's staying more higher up in the range than it is down here. So I wasn't too sure. Plus, it's making lower or higher lows every time. So it wasn't too clear for me. Prices then continue chopping, moves up. So this purple one doesn't exist yet. So ignore this purple one. It's only this blue one, and the pre-market. Chops around. You do have a new high, first entry long, second entry long. This isn't a very good signal bar. It's the wrong color. I needed to be green. I wanted above the EMA, so I had to skip it. Continues moving. Now it breaks down and flashes downwards. So I'm not sure what exactly is going on. Creates a new low. It's a first entry short. Pull back. You don't get a second entry short. You just have the count resets right here. Chops around. I do see a second entry long here, so negating, how many second entry long setups you could see here, I just said, okay, this is clearly some kind of resistance here. It's in a trading range. It's at the bottom of the range. You had one attempt down, it failed. A second attempt down, failed. A third attempt. So this potentially could be a triple test. And also it's at the bottom of the range. So I did try to look for another reason to try to take this trade. It's a new high, first entry long, pull back, second entry long. It's a good signal bar. It closed really nicely. It would have been better if it clicked one tick above or this signal bar was green. But I saw it. I wasn't too sure. There's enough room to scalp out. And it looked like if I did take the trade, I probably would have gotten filled. I would have to sit through this, wondering if it's going to continue downwards. And then here would have flashed up, probably gotten your fill for your scalp, and then close back here. So seeing this kind of price action further reinforced to me, like today is kind of a sketchy day to be very careful with because it's just a lot of, I think, booby traps and fake outs happening. And of course, it pops around. It looks like it's falling in this consolidation area. It creates a new low here. So first entry short. Then you get these huge candles. Technically, there's a second entry short here, and it is breaking out of this green up channel, made one attempt up, and it did test a new high. But when it tests a new high, when you see this, I'm not thinking of going short. And when I see this come down, you could be thinking short, but the setup wasn't clean. You needed this to be a good, clean red candle to give you preparation to be ready to take this type of trade. flashes around. It looks like it's entering another trading range. So as I said earlier, it just looks like there's these weird overlapping trading ranges that were a little bit, in my opinion, hard to trust. And here, this was an almost setup here, but what I didn't like, and I'll point it out, is a new high here. You have first entry long, pull back. Technically, you have a second entry long here. But when I saw this, I was thinking this might be a trade here, but this isn't really following the price action rules because it'd be first entry long, second entry long, third entry long. Even if you look at a bigger context, you're seeing one push down, push up. You have a pullback here. It's clearly red and another push. So this is your second entry long, but triple tested here. It couldn't break through this micro triple test. So to suddenly think you want to go long felt sketchy. Then when you see this, based off this really strong candle, I still couldn't take this trade because it's not good enough. I could get stopped out here. It might be enough for a quick scalp, but you don't know that. It could just continue faltering down. And if you were playing range rules, which you should be if you're thinking this is a range, this is the middle of the range. And it wasn't decisively coming down to push back up. It's stalling here. So you're stalling at the middle of the range. So that means it could go either up or down. So this, although this trade was tempting, there was no clear justification for me to trust or even take this trade. And prices continue moving up. It pushes up, out. I'm thinking this could be a failed breakout here, or it could be making one leg up, pull back 2 times, and then create a second leg up. But it doesn't. It flashes back down. Here I saw a triple test, and if you took this trade, I feel it would have been aggressive because this triple test, if it came down and touched here and rejected upwards, then I'd be thinking, okay, yes, clearly there's some kind of support here. But this one fell a little short, so I wasn't sure if the next candle would push down because you're coming from this really, really strong candle pushing down already. So it just felt sketchy. And then all of a sudden you have this really big candle pushing up, right? So this candle here is almost the same size as this one. And then this one is also almost the same size as that. So seeing that, I get nervous seeing stuff like this because and it looks like you're just going whipsawing, pushing up, pushing down. But market's just like running stops left and right, both on the short side and the long side. That just made me super cautious. And at this point, I was thinking like maybe this one lucky trade that I got is all I'm going to get today because it felt a little dicey. Then prices move up. It looks like it's breaking out and it's following into this yellow channel. I don't see any clean setups. You do have a new high here, first entry long. Here, it's about to create a second entry long. I'm thinking, okay, now this could be a second entry long here because it's a breakout, but it also potentially needs to test the lows. It kind of does, and it breaks up a little bit higher. So technically, you have a second entry long here, but this isn't a very convincing bar to enter. And of course, you would have had to have taken the third entry long, first entry long, pull back second entry long right here, and a third entry long. But here, I this looks like it could have been this. Because you were thinking, okay, it's breaking out. Maybe it's going to test the lows, which it does. Then here, maybe it could push up or continue to test the lows. So here, when it flashed up, if you took it on the engulfing, maybe you would have gotten a trade. But if you waited to see what happens on this candle, this isn't very convincing because it closed about halfway. So that would give me pause, going like, hey, is it losing strength? Does it look like bears were fighting it back right here? But of course, it then pushes up. And of course, you don't know that at the time. And it's just kind of creating a lot of chop and then continues pushing up. So new low here, first entry short. It creates this gap. I saw that, but I wasn't sure what to make of it. Second entry short, but nothing here is telling you to go short or to trust a failure. So a failed second entry short because it's so far from the EMA and this orange channel technically hasn't been established yet, so you can't really trust it. It chops up, and now it looks like it's breaking out of this orange channel. It made one attempt up, actually one attempt up. Bigger contextual wise, it looks like pullback made one attempt up, pullback, second attempt up. But if you just count it by strict count, this first entry long, pullback, second entry long. But the second entry long in real time looks a little sketchy. It looks like you're kind of falling back into the range because the range high could be here. Maybe it doesn't respect the pre-market highs. But in any case, I wasn't sure. It's getting late in the day, and I was kind of mentally fatigued watching this chop and getting faked out mentally on what I thought was going to happen, and it doesn't happen. Prices then continue going down. It breaks out, it chops around. You have a new low, first entry short, second entry short failure, but you don't really quite have, excuse me, you don't quite have a second entry short till about right here. So it's first entry short, pull back, second entry short. This is the signal bar for the second entry short, but then if you wait for the trigger bar to close, it looks a little dicey. And then of course you get this inside bar, so you don't really know what to do, which direction it's going to go. And of course it flashes up. And this is the last 10 minutes of the day, so it gets really choppy. I would probably, not recommend trading here because it's really easy to lose the trade rather fast, even if the price action looked like it was going proper. So overall, it was a little more trickier than usual today. There wasn't that much volume, but what made it tricky for me was there was just so much chop. If you look at this, it's just the EMA isn't really offering much help for sure. And it's just chopping left and right. And it was hard to find out and trust which of these resistance lines, was good because there was inconsistencies in how much it contacted it, rejected or bounced off of it. So I think the one trade that I got, I'm just going to be happy with, and hopefully that was helpful.